And there's nothing I can do other than continue to tell the truth. Because I told you before, regarding this last election, it was a imbalance in the Electoral College, just as when Donald Trump won in 2016, there was a big imbalance in the Electoral College. But the election was quite close. And again, the political analyst on MSNBC Hee Haw that I watched, that you don't have to, is named Steve Karnacki, and he says that the election really was 43,000 votes in 3 states. You're telling me we can't convince at least 5 to 10% of the American people of the folly of raising taxes on rich people, of the folly of a $15 minimum wage? By the way, one of the reasons the left pushes the minimum wage is because of a study that came out in the 90s called the Card-Kruger study. I told you about it. One of those who co-authored the study died about a year or two ago. And in that study, they compared New Jersey and Pennsylvania. New Jersey had raised its minimum wage. Pennsylvania had not. And so this was an ideal experiment to determine whether or not, relative to the state that raised the minimum wage, New Jersey, did Pennsylvania do better. And according to this study, it turned out that even though New Jersey raised its minimum wage, relative to New Jersey, Pennsylvania did not do better. In fact, New Jersey did a little bit better. And that study was used by people like Bill Clinton. He specifically cited it to make an argument that the minimum wage ought to be increased. Now, I've since interviewed an economist named Galloway. I think his first name was Dan, an economist in Ohio when I was living there. And he said the study was full of it. And other economists tried to replicate their results. And it turned out that the researchers that those 2 economists used simply asked employers, during this period of time, did you hire, did you not hire, did you extend hours, did you do whatever? And they wrote down what they said. Other researchers asked for payroll records to verify what the employer said. And it turned out, just as most people thought, relative to New Jersey, Pennsylvania did better because they did not raise their minimum wage. So completely refuted the thesis of the Kruger card study, but still people on the left still cite it. Now, I submit to you, if the research done by John Lott in that famous book, More Guns, Less Crime, had been savaged as effectively as the research from the Card-Kruger study was, Mr. Lott would be afraid to leave his house. His dog wouldn't sniff him. But still they cite this study. Still Obama does it. This is the bull that they're pulling over you. Something else Mr. Obama did. When he was a private lawyer, he worked for a so-called civil rights law firm, and that law firm argued that black would-be borrowers from Citigroup were denied because of their race. Many of these borrowers had poor credit, but because of the pressure that Obama and other lawyers put on lending institutions like Citibank, they began to make some of these bad loans in order to appease people, and they granted 186 plaintiffs their loans. Years later, only 19 of them still had those loans. And one of the plaintiffs even said this: you know, there ought to be some sort of regulation against banks giving loans to people who can't afford to pay them back. What? I'm going to get you the verbatim quote just in case you think I'm making it up. Here it is. Quote, "If you see some people don't make enough money to afford the mortgage, why would you give them a loan? There should be some type of regulation against giving people loans they can't afford," close quote. Ask Obama client John Buchanan, who lost his home. I'm not making this up. And this guy's the man. And I'm an Uncle Tom. Guy who never set foot in a public school for his own behalf. Mom sends him from Indonesia to live with his white grandparents so he can go to the finest prep school in Hawaii, then goes 2 years at a very, very selective private school here in L.A. called Occidental College. Then he goes to Columbia, Ivy League, finishes up his undergraduate degree, then goes to Harvard and finishes up there. Sasha and Malia go to a private school that was set up by the University of Chicago for the faculty members. And then he puts the 2 girls into Sidwell Friends, that $40,000, $50,000 a year private school that Chelsea Clinton went to, and opposes vouchers for you. Look at the polls. Urban parents, black and brown, they recognize the school next door. 13% of Baltimore high schools, 0% can do math at grade level. Another half a dozen, 1% can. They're not sending their kids there. I told you about Philadelphia public school teachers. 44% of them send their own, who have school-age kids, send their own kids to private school. 44%. That's 4 times the national average. Almost 7 times the national average for black parents. And here he is, pressuring banks into lowering lending standards so a whole bunch of people who otherwise would not be able to afford home get homes. And then when recessions come, as they always do, a whole bunch of people, a disproportionately large percentage of whom were black, lost their homes. Between 2010 and 2013, 1/3 of black net worth fell under Obama because of policies that Obama pushed years ago. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Mr. McConnell, is this thing on? I don't think it's on.